Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on June 17th, Thursday. We have a fantastic event with our fellow Ram Brown alumni. And as part of our 25th anniversary of the Ram Brown family, we wanted to highlight programs that have come together with the spirit of what Ram Brown Scholarship stands for, which is to impact and to pay it forward. Today, we have 3 Ram Brown scholars and alumni, Jason Young, Ty Moore, and Brandon Nicholson, and I'll have them say hi, and we'll jump with the video, and then we'll come back.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. It is great to be here, and I'm very excited to talk to you about the Hidden Genius Project and some of the work that we've been doing.
Hello, everybody. Ty Moore here. Thrilled to, as Jason was just saying, talk with you about the Hidden Genius Project and our founding story. And thank you, Meredith and Sam. This is an amazing panel. Really excited.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Brandon Nicholson. I'm Jason and Ty's aspiring sidekick. In the meantime, I've assumed the role as the executive director of the Hidden Genius Project, whose mission is to train and mentor Black male youth in technology creation, entrepreneurship, and leadership skills to transform their lives and communities. So great to be here today.
All right, we're gonna open it with the video, and Meredith and myself will be back in a second. So I ask everybody to put back their video now. That was amazing. What you guys are doing is phenomenal. I'm gonna start it out. Hi, I'm Sam Alamayo, a Ram Brown Scholar, class of 2004, and a board of trustee here with my partner in crime and fellow board of trustee, Meredith Eggers. Meredith.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you.
Guys, that was phenomenal. And the Hidden Genius Project is one of my favorite stories in general, but also just really what it means when you bring together great talents, provide them with support, and have them continue to have their footprint in impacting the community. Jason and Ty, kind of when you guys were initially starting out, can you please start us out with the story of how this came about? How do you guys went on to create Hidden Genius?
Sure. Why don't I start, and then Ty, I'm sure I'll leave stuff out, so jump in, because I think you have a very interesting perspective on what was turned into a very fun journey. So, first I just want to say, like, Hidden Genius would not have happened without the Ram Brown Scholar Program. And I think that's really important to acknowledge. First, in terms of Ram Brown bringing us together, the 3 of us are Ram Brown Scholars, in nurturing those relationships over years and in investing in our educations. But also, I think, really, really contributing to our innate desires, to be change agents. And so I was actually living in Oakland with Ty at the time. He was my roommate and my co-founder for Mind Blown Labs, which is an education technology startup that was focused on, helping people with their financial wellness. And we were actually struggling to get this startup off the ground. And as we were, living in Oakland, I fell in love with the city. And every day I would walk outside, and the thing I saw was that it was rapidly gentrifying. And this was largely being driven by the tech industry. And the other thing I saw was that, unfortunately, the people who had, lived their whole lives in Oakland were not able to, really tap into all of the great opportunities that were being created. And this was particularly true of young Black men. And I just saw so much, opportunity and so much potential in these young men. And then, like I said, I had benefited from having, organizations like the Ron Brown Scholar Program invest in me. And so I felt moved to do the same. And, in particular, I had a belief that, if these young men were given the same types of opportunities, access to the right networks, that they could go on, to build amazing careers in tech, do great things, but also contribute to society in a very meaningful way. So, I'll just say I looked at Ty and I said, Ty, I have a thought. And then we reached out, to 3 other friends who, Kirk Collins, Kilimanjaro Robs, and Isaac. And, we conceived of the Hidden Genius Project. So I'm going to stop there, and Ty, turn it over to you.
Yeah. And to everybody, I'll just have to keep it 100, as they say, right? Jason came to me with this idea. Now, what everybody needs to realize is this: we had it was a team of 4 of us, right? And a team of 5 of us total. It was 4 other Black male entrepreneurs and technologists, and all of us had our own professional endeavors. The vast majority of the 5 of us actually had our own tech startups that we were actively growing and building at the time, right? So just imagine this. So you got entrepreneurs in the room, right? Anybody who's ever talked to an entrepreneur, how much energy and excitement is flowing, the ideas, right? And just like, can't tell me nothing, like it's all possible, right? And we're going to change the world. So you can imagine just that energy and excitement that was brewing. And I loved it. I absolutely loved that. On the other hand, I had to keep it real with my guys. I said, look, especially Jason, I had some real conversation with this brother. I said, Jason, because let's rewind really quickly. My previous 5 years, I had spent launching and growing a youth leadership development program in Cincinnati, Ohio, right? So I knew what it was like to build a high-performing nonprofit organization that did create meaningful impact that lasts for years upon years, right? And so, and I knew that, truthfully, the amount of time, energy, effort required to build such a high caliber nonprofit was effectively just about the same amount of time, energy, and effort is required to make any tech for-profit startup pop, right? And so I had to really keep it real with, like I said, with Jason in particular, and say, hey, bruh, honestly, I love this idea. I think it's brilliant, and it's 100% necessary, right? In fact, even in college, I had a similar idea where I was like, man, one thing that would create a fundamental impact in our society would absolutely be linking positive Black male professionals with Black male youth. And I just knew that could, I felt like that was a key, truthfully, to solving a lot of issues within our own community. So again, mind you, I was invested in the idea itself. I didn't think we were the right people to do it. And that was because all of us had our own endeavors. And I knew that the rigor, the time, the energy that was going to be required to make this pop. And I just looked at how much time Jason and I were already putting in at Mind Blown Labs. And I was trying to understand, like, hey, where's the time? But Jason, I mean, he kicked it back to me, and he sort of dropped some bars. He said, man, we could do this in our sleep. Difficult takes a day, impossible takes a week, right? And I didn't know if it was Jay Young or Jay-Z talking to me. But that was basically the beginning of the end. And quite frankly, we ended up, I realized, hey, this brother, you can't stop him. He had too much energy, excitement. He's one of the most persistent dudes I had ever encountered. And again, all these other entrepreneurs, again, they're all doers, right? And so it was clear, hey, this is going down. And so at that point, I became resolved and said, well, guess what? I have to give it my all. I have to be extremely involved to just make sure that we do build that high performance nonprofit organization, right? Because it's not just about the mission, vision, and goals. It's also about the operations, the programming, the evaluation, the fundraising. I mean, there's just all these different elements that were needed. And so I made sure I was involved, especially given my nonprofit experience, just to make sure we could create that organization. And the Hidden Genius Project had the greatest probability of success. So that's a little bit of the backstory, Sam and Meredith.
No, I love it. I love it. I mean, that's just an example of you put two incredibly smart and energetic guys, put them in a room and have them talk, have them work together, and the result is just phenomenal impact. Brandon, tell us where you came in the picture and how you just took the baton and made it all happen.
Great, yeah, and you may hear some background noise here from my junior assistant, so I apologize in advance. But yes, I had the great fortune of being in the RBS graduating class, high school class of 2001, which means I was sandwiched right between Jason Young's class of 2000 and Ty Moore's class of 2002, phenomenal classes. And these were two phenomenal, legendary brothers at Harvard University. Nobody's perfect, but they did their best there. Understanding how sharp these guys were, I always wanted to do whatever I could to, collaborate, be around what they were doing. And I definitely remember the day Jason called. I was sitting in my office, the phone rang, and I told him, he probably thinks I'm blowing smoke to this day, but I never wanted to miss one of Jason Young's calls because he's one of the most business-like guys I've ever met. So I'm like, he must be calling about some money, right? So when he called, he was telling me that there was an initiative that he'd been kicking around with Ty and thinking about some other guys, and it's called the Human Capital Initiative. There's going to be a can't miss proposition. We're going to try and connect young people. It's like, everything about it sounds great. The name is, it's going to be touch and go for me. But, thankfully, weeks later, with Ty, Jason, and Kilimanjaro, Isaac, and Kurt, we were able to, you get the Hidden Genius Project, a beautiful name that we actually do not allow team members to abbreviate in any speech because it's that good, right? You got to pay a lot of money for a brand this good, and these guys were able to come up with it around Jason's kitchen table, similar to having the name Ron Brown, right? And so the mantra, of course, of the Ron Brown Scholar Program is the value of one, the power of all. And of course, Michael Mallory was always selling us this dream once we got the money, that, man, one day you all should be building stuff together. And I was like, I don't know what we're going to be building, but I'm going to be on Jason and Ty's team when it happens. So basically, trying to do this job was the only way they let me hang out. I did get invited to their holiday party, and that's when they let me know that I had the job. So, mission accomplished. 6 years later, 6.5 years later, the rest is history. But without question, it was really just the vision around creating a youth empowerment network for our Black male youth. The idea that we could certainly start in Oakland, which to some would be the shadow of Silicon Valley. To me, it's home and one of the most dynamic places I've ever been, right? And but also recognizing that we could do this, across the country, if not the world, if we did it right. And so it was a great challenge for me at a great point in time where I was trying to find a way to make more impact in my life and my career. And, Ty, I still remember we were sitting in a restaurant in downtown Oakland, and I thought that we were just celebrating another great win for Mind Blown Labs, having pulled another fantastic grant and contract. And, we were talking about how the Hidden Genius Project was going in its early years, because I was volunteering from the outset. But we were talking, it was about 2.5 years in, and we're saying, how's it going? And, it sounds like either it's going to take off or it may have to fall apart if it doesn't have the infrastructure it needs to thrive, right, and to soar. And so I found myself talking about my own career journey and what I hope to get out of life. And I'm sitting there, working over probably a steak, and Ty says, well, what if you just tried this thing on for a few years and we kill it and we build the Hidden Genius Project, and then people actually know who you are. So very, very compelling narrative. I try not to be in my feelings about it, but I love what we do today. And we've served, over 7,600 now young people across the world, and we've been building in Oakland, of course, but built a site in Richmond, California, Los Angeles, California, and we've been able to do programs and events and partnerships from New Orleans to Baltimore to Atlanta, Detroit, London, England, Johannesburg, South Africa. So I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish.
Yeah, and Sam, if I might interject, two points, or at least one that Brandon failed to mention. I mean, he really was there from the very beginning. We made it a point to ensure our program was again best practice minded. With that, we wanted to ensure that even from the very beginning, we were evaluating our performance. And so Brandon initially volunteered and was engaged. I mean, I think he was there the very first week even that we kicked it off, that very first summer back in 2012. And he came by multiple times during that initial program. And so, I mean, he saw the Hidden Genius effectively from its inception. And we were absolutely beyond thrilled when Brandon ended up coming on board as the founding executive director, and I believe it was early 2015, because he added this perspective that was it was very learned, right? This learned, deep. I mean, it felt like we had Socrates in the room. I mean, it was this very learned, erudite perspective that came from just years of knowing the field, right? Of knowing education, working with youth and even community-based interventions, right? And I mean, his perspective, his engagement has absolutely amplified the level of the Hidden Genius Project. It's added another level of professionalism and has really allowed the program to scale and to amplify its impact leaps and bounds. So Brandon, man, we feel blessed. I still feel like the best decision that Jason and I and the other co-founders ever made with respect to the program was actually hiring Brandon as the executive director.
I concur wholeheartedly.
The love is beautiful, and all of us that know Brandon definitely will echo that. I want to say we are about to launch a quick poll so that while we're going through the conversation, would love definitely for everyone to participate on this poll. As the poll is going on, you started this program in Silicon Valley, where incredible amount of wealth has been created the past 30, 40 years. Incredible amount of impact around the world came from it. But you've also seen, as Jason was describing, the gentrification as that grows was happening, where a lot of communities of color gets pushed out, and you don't see a lot of impact happening by osmosis, which you hope would be happening. And the Hidden Genius is one of those programs that really is putting kids, and especially neglected communities, on the path, Black men on the path to be able to be part of that innovative class. Can you talk a bit about this paradox of, you would think, wow, it's in Silicon Valley, everybody that aspires to be an entrepreneur, like, go to Silicon Valley, make it out there. But somebody that was born and raised in Silicon Valley does not get that opportunity to come out. And what should the tech industry do in order to be part of the solution, instead of currently being part of the problem? Anyone, if you take it.
Well, I'm happy to jump in, just to tee up. I'm going to be channeling Jason and crew. I'd say, our organization was founded very much to ensure that we could focus and be solution oriented and be assets based, right? Be assets driven, and our best asset being the young people, our actual communities. Jason, introduced me to a kind of tagline is, can we inspire young people to build things, projects, products applications that their communities can't live without. And so, we can spend a lot of time wringing our hands trying to figure out how to change the hearts and minds of leaders in the Valley. But that's honestly a them problem, right? What Jason, Ty, our founders, I think are really selling everybody on, including myself, is let's shift the math a bit, right? You've got communities, you've got purchasing power, you've got experiences, you've got unique experiences that present competitive advantages, right? So if we empower these young people to build things, they're not going to be building the 29th lunch app, although ironically that was the first collective project right from the first cohort. They landed on lunch, so it took us one more project. We were like, okay, we get it, fine, but they just needed more inspiration. But the point being, actually, that they're going to be trying to solve problems and see opportunities in their communities and think about things in different ways. So in reality, honestly, Sam, it's not rocket science. Just to be honest, to get to our communities, you've got young people from here to everywhere we've been who are brilliant, who have tremendous ideas. Many of them come from multiple generations of scientists, of engineers, of builders. You have history, obviously we just celebrated the 100-year anniversary, of Tulsa, right, in Greenwood, and the devastation of that community through terrorism, right? And so, you have generations over a century ago of folks who were running thriving businesses, but you have then a history still of, for example, how many engineers had their patents stolen from them or not approved by the USPTO, et cetera, all these years. And so we had to be mindful in developing the Hidden Genius Project of not falling into this narrative gap of either, needing folks to finally see us or thinking that this was new to us, right? Even if you look at Nielsen, now Nielsen does studies every other year about the prevalence and prominence of Black youth and communities in tech. Black youth 16 to 25, I believe, are the most ardent early adopters of new technology, the most willing to show someone else how to use that technology, leading the world in content creation and social media and developing creative ways to leverage technology to communicate, et cetera. So those are all things we can build on with our young people. And more than anything, whether they want to build tech, sell tech, create tech, strategize, run a company, that they leverage their passions, their interests, and their strengths to do so. So we start with, what do our young people love? What do they have to offer? Not how do they have to get caught up. So then when you come back to your question, Sam, about the Valley, if you all want to make money, you just follow, or if you want to make more of it, then you've got to follow the path of so many of these dynamic young people that we're working with. And there's way more than we're able to touch, but we're very fortunate and grateful to be able to touch the ones that and serve the ones that we do.
Jason, you want to chime in?
I would just say I agree with that. And I would just jump on to Brandon's last point, which is, if you want to make money, right? So you have these incredibly creative minds that you're not tapping into. And honestly, I see it as, in part, it's a talent thing, right? Like if you're trying to build the best organizations, then you would be foolish to ignore the brilliance that is literally in your backyard. So that's the only thing I would add.
Okay, and I'll hop in really quickly as well. And it's hard, obviously, to ever follow both Brandon and Jason. But what I'd say, there's two things that come to mind. One is the fact that these Black male youth, they're some of the most resilient people on the planet. As everybody here who is likely, everybody here who is listening likely knows, starting up anything, right, and creating any kind of venture, making any venture successful, whether nonprofit or for-profit, is extremely difficult. It's almost impossible. And the types of folks who can actually drive those forward, you have to have super gritty, super scrappy, the folks who really, you can't tell them anything, right? Like the reality is, a lot of these Black male youth, the types of stuff that they have dealt with their entire lives, right, since day one, I mean, many people wouldn't even be able to deal with as adults, quite frankly. And so the level of resilience, the level of persistence, the level of just belief and ability to make something happen to create something from nothing, that already exists. That goes down all the time anyways, right? And so why not say, hey, why don't you join my team? Let's see what we could do together. And the other big point is absolutely the fact that needs to be bubbled up is absolutely around investing. I mean, if we take the Hidden Genius project, which itself was created in large, or I'd say became successful in large part, honestly, because of the Ron Brown Scholar Program, right? I re-looked at the very initial application that we submitted. We received this seed funding from the Ron Brown Scholar Program Community Service Foundation. Our very first year, it was $5,000. $5,000. That was all it took to get to right now. I believe Brandon, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the program brought in $5 million, right? So now they're in 2020. So you go from 5,000 to 5 million within a pretty short order, right? And so it's just look at this investment as something that I mean, really the ROI is almost exponential. And it's not just with with nonprofits, but hey, it could also happen with for-profits where we're starting to see that as our alums, and Brandon can speak to this at some point. The Hidden Genius Project just did this alumni venture seed fund, right? Where where the genius graduates are now creating their own ventures. And so they do require investment. So I just want to make sure that folks are clear that these are some of the most resilient entrepreneurs you could possibly invest in. And I do want the tech community to realize, like, hey, these are investments that will return at an insane, 1,000x or whatever, something at least 10x ROI.
Meredith, I think you want to say.
Sorry, my internet is being a bit difficult this afternoon. So I think it's interesting and really powerful that you talk about helping the young men and helping the folks in Hidden Genius to follow the money. Yet all three of you decided not to follow the money and start the Hidden Genius Project. So talk a little bit about, and I completely agree and understand that at some point to stabilize your life, if you don't have finances, the money comes first. And then sometimes it doesn't. So talk about how each of you came through that process.
Jason,
Okay,
can you kick us off there?
okay.
I mean, because that's the money guy, right?
It's funny, right? You mentioned it, and I guess in my mind, it's never been mutually exclusive, right? I do think, I believe strongly in people making money. I believe particularly strongly in Black folks making money. And I'll go a step further and just say that if I think about my theory of change, money is always a part of it. Because, if you look at, I would say, the inequities that exist in the United States, you can almost always find an economic tie to those. And so if you think about it, coming out of school, I went to work in finance. I then joined a tech startup. I then started my own tech startup. And I would say at no point in that journey did I say, oh, I don't want to make money. It is, I think as Ty and I were launching Mind Blown, I would say we had very ambitious dreams in terms of helping people, but also generating, a significant financial return. Now, I think where Hidden Genius came in, and as I guess we said, we didn't feel as if we had to wait, or even if we could wait until we were fully financially established to start the process of giving back. And Yeah, and so I would say that really is the crux of it. And in fact, the way that we chose to give back was to then empower people with the same skills that we were developing to be able to, increase their opportunity to be financially successful among, other things as well.
Sure. Yeah. And Jason is definitely, he's an economist by training. He's very much a capitalist. I come from a different school of thought, right? So you have to understand my background. So I studied classics in college, right? Latin and ancient Greek. So I have more, I don't know, more of I think philosophical foundations or something of that sort, right? So when so I went to Harvard, right? Graduated, did extremely well, had tons of opportunities after graduating. What did I do though? I out the gate, I started launching ventures effectively, right? Tech startup. And then one of the biggest things where I ended up spending a lot of my time was actually a nonprofit. And it's funny because shortly after I launched this nonprofit, and I'll be frank, I'm gonna be brutally honest with everybody. My starting salary at this nonprofit, they and I think the board actually felt like they were being generous. My starting salary was $30,000 annual. I'm not talking about like a quarterly starting salary. I'm talking about annual starting salary was $30,000. Now I had some other things happening. I was tutoring on the side and this and that. So I had ways of boosting that income, but still the salary was $30,000, which, looking back, I'm like, wow, that was crazy. And the funniest thing is right after I started it, I got an offer back in Cincinnati to work for somebody who's going to pay me six figures, give me a Benz, and even give me a living stipend. I said, there's no way though, because I was so committed to impacting the community, right? To empowering these youth with opportunities that I knew would just pay tons of dividends going forward. So for me, it's that's first off, it's a great question, Meredith. I look at it more as, hey, if I think it's more about what are your values, right? What are you actually what are your strengths? What are your preferences? What are you passionate about? I mean, for me, my driver has never been money. It's always been something where, hey, I know that I need money to survive and that kind of thing. And even now I'm doing a for-profit, I have a for-profit executive coaching leadership development firm. And we get, we definitely get paid, right? We get good sized checks for the work that we're doing, but it's still aligned with my goal of empowering people to live better lives, right? I'm helping people function more optimally within their jobs, right? Whether they're running businesses or running one of the top NBA teams, whatever they're doing, I'm helping them develop a high performance culture where they're able to empower and motivate their fellow employees, right? And where they're able to straight up lead from their souls, right? Because a lot of times in organizations, that's quite frankly, I've heard from a lot of folks that's what's missing, right? The values-based leadership is missing. And so I look at it more as like, hey, are you doing things that are aligned with who you are, with what you really care about and what you want to do and what you believe truthfully your mission on this earth is. So, and I mean, of course you need to make money and at least to survive or thrive or whatever. But for me, I don't have as much of that drive towards money. And I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it is fine for the geniuses, right? For them to choose whether they want to pursue for-profit, nonprofit, hybrid, or something that we haven't even yet thought of.
I like that.
So I'm ending the poll and we could go through kind of some of the results there. It's quite interesting. And I want you guys, what you have done with the Hidden Genius project, which is really quite interesting, is it's also building a sense of fraternity between these kids, not just the mentorship and other stuff, for them to be able to discover solutions together. Can you talk a bit more about some of the things that you have observed of, by just putting them in the right place, giving them the expectation that they can do this? As Brandon was saying, it's not rocket science. It's really, you want to put people in the right position to be able to succeed. What are some of the things that you have seen that have surprised you, or kind of an interesting observation of being able to put these kids in a position to be able to support each other and collaborate?
Yes, certainly, as we know, the value of one, the power of all. There's a great Bantu term we subscribe to in our program, of course, Ubuntu. I am because we are, and we are because I am. And it all goes together. When you think about, Jason, Ty, and I, 3 consecutive years in the Ron Brown Scholar Program, we got to attend a couple summer convenings and the occasional, regional dinner, hang out at interview weekend or selection weekend, and or the American Journey Awards. But we didn't have a common curriculum, right? We didn't have a common learning experience. Even Jason and Ty were, 2 years apart at Harvard, so they weren't necessarily taking a ton of classes together, even though they made some magic there. Shout out to the Black Women's Appreciation Dinner. Well done, gentlemen. I think, we were able to do a lot, and look at where we are, roughly 10 years after we got our scholarships. We had the Hidden Genius Project. So as, we're founding the Hidden Genius Project and advancing it and seeing what the Ron Brown Scholar Program had already done. What if you could have a common curriculum? What if you could have a common learning experience? What if you could have highs and lows, and days where you hated each other and you made fun of each other, but days where you loved each other, and you stood up for each other? That's a dangerous network to have. It's the number one benefit we afford our geniuses is each other. I think even more than the adult mentors is each other. And you see things like our Alumni Venture Seed Fund, as Ty mentioned, guys leaning on each other, learning together. We had the first ever, what's now known as the business track for our intensive immersion program. So over time, we actually started instituting tracks to allow for young people in our intensive program, a 15-month 800-hour component cohort base for Black male youth in high school. Historically, our kind of single deliverable would have been a software project, right? And we had a young person in particular who just was not feeling anything about the technology development component. Very much into tech, very much into shoes, actually leveraging Instagram and other platforms to actually advance and market himself as a shoe restorer, sneaker designer, etc. And said, listen, I'm trying to create a marketplace, a technological marketplace to do this. I don't want to build it. I'm telling you right now. And if you make me build it, I'm just going to sit here, stare at you. But I'm willing to build the idea, do the market research, build the pitches, do all the work. And would you give me credit for a final deliverable if I effectively hired one of my brothers in my cohort as my CTO, so he could build the MVP, but I'd do all the design work, et cetera. And, he'd been through a lot, and we'd seen such great growth for him. We didn't want to all of a sudden, spite our face, cut off our nose to spite our face. So we allowed him to do this. And thus was born the business track, right? This idea that you could collaborate, and yeah, not everyone needs to be a leading engineer. There's so many different roles and ways to attack this, but you've got a great, resource. You can lean on each other. So you saw this young man, James Green, in our Alumni Venture Seed track. Alumni Venture Seed Fund track is an alum 4 years after he completed the program. And he had multiple components built by other geniuses. You've had other geniuses inform the strategy components to other of our geniuses businesses. You've had geniuses with similar ideas who compared notes. Hey, you've got an app that helps you find, places to play sports, after school or during the summer. I've got that too. What did you do? What can I learn? And that's been incredible. But even beyond just the tech piece, it's just having a safe space. One thing that's really important is just, when we think about the why and why we do this program, is really to bring young people together across walks. And there's a funny story about Tracy Timore II. At one of our selection days, we call them interview days, we offered the community an opportunity to interview young people. And we'd already been a year or two into my tenure, and it, very kind of intentionally taken, the term at risk out of our mission statement at that point. We focus on at opportunity, assets driven, and all the potential that our young people offer. At the same time, also wanting to be inclusive of people across backgrounds, not just quote unquote low income or working class or what have you, because they have very different experiences as Black male youth, but shared experiences. They need to be able to lean on each other, much in the way that we are as Ron Brown scholars. And Ty just happened to interview a young man who, by the age of 15, had already been an experienced pilot. He'd done multiple flying lessons, eventually got his license, et cetera. And Ty said, I'm voting no on this young person, because if we only have 22 spots, I think this guy's going to be all right. And, basically Ty and I, in front of this entire group and circle, had a conversation about how wrong Ty was, because how many of our brothers need to know, another brother who can fly a plane, right? And who can make it accessible. And yes, this young man is a young man who did have access to advanced placement computer science at his school, but the school he attended, which, very frankly, cost a lot of money to go to. But he was in a cohort, in a class where, as a freshman and into his sophomore year, there were children in his class who literally asked to touch his hair on multiple occasions. They literally assumed that he wasn't, that he was slow in math and all these things, even though he was quite accomplished. And so he finally had a safe space to be, right? And a space to be humble and learn. And he could be with his brothers. And it turns out he wasn't a great entrepreneur at all. Quite possibly because he hadn't wanted for much, but he was getting next to people who didn't have advanced placement computer science at their school. But man, could they come up with ideas, and could they see the entrepreneurial opportunities and everything. So when he and his colleagues became, dangerous, as I say, is when they teamed up, then they could build together, right? Build on each other's ideas. And you can say, listen, you're having some issues with for loops. You're having, trying to get this Python together. Let me help out because I'm able to get some more time in at school. But they're like, hey, listen, your deck is trash. Your idea is not very powerful right now. Like, let's dig deeper. Let's talk about how to build a better entrepreneurial venture, and putting it together. It was pretty incredible. One thing I would say, thank you, Sam, is, related to that at risk and at opportunity point, there is, a moment where we have to be very real about, just the data and understand why we do this. So Sam, I don't know if you've got that queued up. Because there are many people who say, well, shouldn't you only focus on one subset or on low income? And as it turns out, everybody needs this. Everybody needs a village. Everybody needs to be able to grow and work together. But then there's this very powerful moment. And so we can start here, Sam. So this is a Stanford study, and I'm sure they did their best, go Bears, but this is a Stanford study where they were actually, and if we could show the headline very quickly, Sam. Thank you. Extensive data shows punishing reach of racism for Black boys. It appeared in the New York Times, but Stanford completed the study. This is a longitudinal study over, I believe 2 decades. If you can pause it here, this is showing what happens studying white boys raised in wealthy families and Black boys raised in wealthy families. And what happens if they grew up rich. You can see the Black boys eventually becoming Black men are in the blue, white boys eventually becoming white men are in the yellow. And you see for Black boys growing up well off in particular, you see a visually, right, impactful, a visually significant number of data points where they land. That bottom row would be ending at poor. So, making it doesn't mean the same thing we think it does in, shorthand, right? Because you need support there. All sorts of barriers along the way, and that's probably for a different salon. But if we scroll down, Sam, obviously the flip side of that is as we look at mobility. And Sam, if you can go down to, I think it's the set exactly. So this is for poor children growing up, and so you see just that mobility trend and factor. It's hard to mobilize regardless, right? But it's very hard for Black boys and young men to do it. And so this is why we exist, to address this movement and make sure that no matter what our young people want to do, that they can, stay where they are, go up, or have an inspirational ascent way up from where they are. And they need a network to do this alongside skills and mentors.
think all of us heard Bam Bam in the background, but yeah, what he said, and then the only really briefly, the only other 2 points I'd like to make around this are belief. One thing that I've noticed throughout the years, and that I know we even early on were just spent so much time and energy around, was just believing in these young men so much that eventually that belief transferred to them believing in themselves. And I know that was powerful. I know Brandon, his team, they pour so much belief, so much love, so much just like, hey, you're even if you mess up 1,000 times, I'm going to embrace you 1,001, right? Like just that belief, that knowingness that guess what, you're good, you have value, you yourself are worthy, right? You can make an impact, and you can build whatever you want. You can be who you want, right? I mean, that belief is absolutely critical. I think that's one big thing that the Hidden Genius Project has that, quite frankly, I haven't seen in that many other programs. And just the extent to which Brandon and the entire staff, the whole team, even the community who support the Hidden Genius Project, just the extent that everybody really believes in these young Black males is phenomenal. And so that's one thing. And Brandon has a million stories about what they have done to ensure that anybody who comes into the program, they spend those 15 months and they actually matriculate through the program, and then they stay with them. They continue to work with these powerful young Black males even beyond that 15-month immersion program. They have them come back as youth educators. They provide them with opportunities. They help them get jobs. They help them get funding. I mean, it's the extent to which the Hidden Genius Project believes in its students, it's almost unbelievable. So I'd say that's one big thing. The other big thing that, again, Brandon and his team bring to the table is creating this community of support. You feel it when you walk into the Hidden Genius Project. If you go to an event, if you hear even the brothers talking about their fellow geniuses, you can feel that. You're like, dang on, did you guys grow up together? I mean, it's next level community. You feel it, you can see it, you can hear it. I was a mentor coach to Malik, one of the young genius founders in the Alumni Seed Venture Fund, and he told me, even when he would think about folks he could add to his team, folks he could hire or folks who could help out in this, that, the other way, or people he could brainstorm with, et cetera. I mean, he always turned to the Hidden Genius Project first. He thought about his fellow cohort members from Oak. Shout out to Oak 3 cohort, Malik. That's all you, man, right? So he thought about the Hidden Genius Project first, and it really helped me realize. And again, I feel this every time I'm in the presence of these geniuses. I mean, the community that they create is absolutely real. It's the type of thing that where you see it. It's people, not tech, right? It's all about the people, not the tech. And Brandon in the program, of course, they make sure the kids have the technology creation, entrepreneurship, and leadership skills so they can transform their lives and their own communities. But they know that it's deeper than that. If they can create a real investment and real connection among all of these geniuses, guess what? That's the thing that's going to change generations.
And just in 15 seconds, I have to say, Meredith and Sam, if that sounds familiar, it's because we 1,000% learned it, through the Ron Brown Scholar Program model, right? It's basically Mr. Mallory in a nutshell. And, all the conversations like, Mr. Mallory, this person has not returned any of your calls in 4 years after you gave him $40,000 and you still will, pick up the call on the first ring and help them find a job. Are you crazy? But eventually you understand the why. And I'm just proud that we can carry on even a piece of that legacy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's not it's not rocket science, but there aren't enough programs like it out there to meet the need. And so I think that that's the really important thing that you guys are doing, is taking a model that works and applying it to a community that needs it and seeing how it grows, and then replicating that in other places. And your graduates will do the same thing. And that's what we should be doing everywhere. It's not rocket science.
And then Ty, I just wanted to come back to one point that you were saying there, which is just so powerful. Believing in this young Black men just unlocks their potential. And one of the questions that we'd asked in the poll was, do you have the skill set? Everybody has at least that ability to be able to impart that belief and that sense of expectation. Like, I believe in you, not just by talk. I know you could do it, and I'm here to see you through it. And what are some of the things that all of us sitting here can do to support those in our community to be able to have the Hidden Genius impact, but also support the Hidden Genius program?
Well, I think two things. I guess we'll call it the shameless plug, and we'll do that one, I guess, first, so we can try and end on the impact. So, of course, you can check out our website and just find out what we're doing. Follow us. One thing I'll say is Jason, Ty, Kilimanjaro, Isaac, Kurt. Even shout out to Isaac's wife, Russ. I mean, all these people were there early, had a great vision and belief in not just our young people, but in what the organization could do. And so they always thought that this is an organization that could land internationally. And I didn't want to make them a liar. So thankfully, I mentioned we've been able to land on a few continents, but we've got a lot more to do. As Meredith said, there's a need to have more orgs doing it. But in reality, there's a lot of great orgs out there. We want to just get next to them, right? And so I would encourage you to, visit our website. Certainly you can donate or just become a supporter. We're actually launching for the first time this week ever, but this week we're launching our shop for our organization. So Sam, I know you're remarking at some of the gear. We absolutely have a way of getting you some folks to visit our shop. We'll make sure we get the link in the chat. But more substantively, what it means to start and create impact is partner. We haven't done anything useful by ourselves. I haven't seen it happen since we started, but certainly not since I've been around. Everything we did with someone else, whether it was the community bank of the Bay helping us get into a building, right, to have a space, whether it was the David E. Glover Education Technology Center hosting our first ever cohort that was going to be roughly 20 people, and our office could not accommodate that size cohort. And now we have tremendous partners, funders, and of course the Ron Brown Scholar Program was our first partner, right? To get us off the ground. And so we've got to get over any sense that we need to be able to take sole credit for something, because if we did it, there's no chance it was just us. That's what we learned coming into the Ron Brown Scholar Program, right? We're carrying everyone on our shoulders, and then we carry everyone through, undergrad and our next chapter. And this is a continuation of that. So if you don't feel like you can make all the impact with what you have, then get somebody else who has some of what you had. That's how Jason felt. As dynamic as Jason is, he had to, come hand in hand and get Ty to jump in there with him. And Ty was like, nah, it's not going to work. But look at what happened. Here we are. So, it's an amazing growth and development because of collaboration.
And Ty kind of proudly showing the original t-shirt. So go get it on the website, everybody. I know we're running out of time, but I really, really do want to show just a 4-minute clip of this fantastic trailer for a documentary to end on a fantastic note of this phenomenal program. Before I start that, Meredith, do you want to add anything?
No, just thank you. And then Brandon, sorry, I just want to say thanks to you guys for everything you do and everything you do for the Ron Brown Scholars Program as well. And I did say that it wasn't rocket science. That doesn't mean it's not hard. And what you've done is incredible and meaningful and appreciated.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to thank you on behalf of us, for this opportunity to share our story and elevate our organization. And just for a very quick background on this particular clip, it is not a world premiere because we showed it a couple times before, but it's Still fairly exclusive. We're working on a documentary project. We have a filmmaker who's got footage from the Hidden Genius Project going back the last 5 years or so, and about 8 terabytes for those of you who can count storage of footage that he's working through. So this is actually a trailer to a documentary project called Hidden in Plain Sight, and it looks as though this summer we'll be launching a campaign to be able to complete the funding to be able to produce the first portion of it. And so we're showing it to you all now so you can see, but we hope to be able to launch in full by early 2022. So thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I want to make sure that everybody gets to see it because we cannot share the link. Wow, what a powerful, powerful clip. I cannot wait to see the whole video. Guys, thank you so much for making the time and sharing this phenomenal project with the overall Ron Brown community. Again, thank you so much for what you do, and so proud that you're part of this organization.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sam. And just a reminder to everybody, this all started with a seed investment of $5,000.
Pretty awesome. Pretty
Thank you,
awesome.
everyone.
Am I allowed to buy a t-shirt? Am I allowed to wear a t-shirt if I buy it?
100%. You and all your friends too, and then we got to get 2 for Barry as well.
All right, Barry will have one as well, I promise. Great to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Meredith,
everybody.
Sam. It's a pleasure. Cheers.
Everyone, thank you.